Hi, I'm Tom Berry. I've been working in sustainability, advising companies on a mixture of strategy, innovation and sustainability for the last 20 years. And most recently was Chief Sustainability Officer at Farfetch, the online luxury fashion platform. And I'm joined by an incredible panel of people who I'm going to ask them to give one or two sentence introductions to themselves beyond what your title says on the screen. So Lauren.
Yes, I'm Lauren, and I'm the Innovation Sustainability Network Manager at UKFT. UKFT is the UK Fashion Textile Association, which is the largest network of fashion textiles in the UK, representing the whole supply chain, from raw materials to recycling and reuse.
Hi, my name is
Sorry,
Joey.
I should have said, Joey's lost his voice.
Yeah,
He's not a chronic smoker. He wasn't out or partying all last night. It's a genuine illness. So please forgive.
hopefully you can hear me. My name is Joey Pringle. My company is called VESHIN Factory. We're an international manufacturing group specializing in luxury handbags and footwear production. We're based across 7 countries: China, Brazil, Colombia, London, Los Angeles, Italy, and Germany. And we have a deep focus on scaling next-gen materials. Our booth is just in the corner over here, and you can get a good understanding of what we do and our dedication to making these materials work in finished goods productions.
Hi, I'm Shruti. I head up MANNY AI. We are a technology company. We are a very young startup. We got funded last year, and our core technology is image recognition and construction standards. We apply this technology to workflows for fashion enterprises, for sourcing, buying, and production planning, actually. It's an exciting time for us. We're just a team of 7, and we're working with a couple of the largest fashion enterprises in the world.
Cool. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Marte. I'm the co-CEO at the Berlin Fashion Hub, which is an incubator and accelerator celebrating sustainable innovations across the fashion value chain in the heart of Berlin. And we host a group exhibition right next to the stage with a selection of 7 innovators from our community.
Brilliant. Welcome all. So what I should have said at the start, I've not done a very good job so far. There will be a QR code on the screen. So if you have questions for the panel, please use the QR code, submit your questions, and then towards the end of the panel, we'll ask those questions from the audience to the panel. So first of all, Lauren, can you tell us a bit about your recent work with UKFT, with something called the Circular Fashion Innovation Network, CIFIN, in particular around what you've done with onshoring both manufacturing to the UK and recycling to the UK?
Yes, so the Circular Fashion Innovation Network has been a co-led program with the British Fashion Council and funded by the UK government. It's lasted 2 years, and UKFT particularly has been in charge of the pillars of sustainable manufacturing and recycling infrastructure. And the British Fashion Council has been looking at circular business models. So what the program has done is map the innovation landscape in all of these areas and really look at where the opportunities for transformation are in UK supply chains to really enhance sort of UK competitiveness, both in manufacturing and recycling. We've done a lot, and you're welcome to read more on the CIFIN website of all the amazing projects that we've undertaken. But I would summarize sort of the key innovations that we've looked at. So within manufacturing, we've really explored the opportunity that there is for AI, for reshoring, and Shruti will talk about more about the particular project that we've done. And then we've looked as well at the opportunity for automation and robotics for high quality manufacturing in the UK, and new models of manufacturers such as local denim finishing hubs for the UK, and the opportunity of even transforming how UK manufacturing is organized at the moment into apparel manufacturing parks. And in recycling, we've done a lot of work in the area of automated sorting and pre-processing, looking at key technologies and advancements in that area, and obviously fiber-to-fiber recycling as well. So we've been doing a lot with the industry. It's been great to see so much engagement, and hoping to do more in the future.
And why, if there are brands in the audience, why should they come to the site to look at it or work with UKFT on it, or what can they learn? What's the kind of benefits for them?
I think there's not usually the opportunity that there's been with the Circular Fashion Innovation Network, which is really building that network and that learning opportunity to see what's out there. You know, everyone is operating so much in isolation. So I guess we've provided that link between innovation, what's happening, and, you know, where you should focus on to really transform the industry. And I think the response has been super positive, and it's been brands and retailers, but also UK manufacturers, UK innovators, UK recyclers, and even global partners. So, yeah.
Great. Thank you. Shruti, Laura mentioned you were one of the partners as part of the SIFIN work. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do, what you've done through that project, and particularly why others should replicate it? You know, why is it a good solution for other brands?
So the opportunity which Lauren gave us with the UKFT project was really to do a discovery-based work with a large brand. And this particular brand had historically a lot of overstock. They had been undergoing a transformation to short lead times and converting the existing tier 1 suppliers to a just-in-time manufacturing network, whereby which, and this is a dream for most manufacturers, whereby which they have a commitment level. So they have a forecast at a weekly level, and they have to meet that forecast through short lead time manufacturing. So the opportunity was for us to actually work with this brand as well as one of their manufacturers and really study in detail what are the everyday workflows for a buyer, a designer, a fabric specialist, on the factory side, somebody who's doing the sampling, ordering the fabrics, ordering the care labels, balancing the lines. So we studied these workflows, and we kind of realized through this study that the biggest issue with short lead time manufacturing is that you are doing all of the same work which you typically do, just more often. So if a brand is going from buying 4 times a year to, let's say, in this case, 50 times a year, with the same team, you're 8xing or 10xing your work, right? So there's just a lot more work which you have to do. And ultimately, if you're making decisions for buying, for price negotiation, for fabric, it's just too many decisions which you have to make. And the same is true for a factory. They just need to order those many more care labels, enter in that much more data. Once we understood and we could frame the problem in this way of it being a workflow issue, we then got a challenge statement from the factory. They were like, Shruti, no matter what you do, please don't create a system where we're sitting and entering data. And so we took that on as a challenge, and we built the basis of our image recognition technology, where today we can look at an image and we can predict the bill of materials, the standard minute value, the machines which would be needed in a line, and we can look at purchase orders and start to predict prices, which would a factory would make in China versus India versus Bangladesh. And this is based on a combination of the brand's internal data and our data set. I think recognizing this is really important in the sector, that ultimately, why are you not shifting to short lead times or reshoring and handling the problem head on? I would encourage brands at this point to really see this time as an opportunity to originally think about their supply chain. This is not a time to copy a model. This is a time to look at data, consolidate the fabric buying, and think through what kind of products need to be on short lead times, what kind of products need to be on business as usual, and enter into collaborative agreements. Ultimately, technology is a tool to implement these processes and nothing more than that.
And is the key benefits for brands is that reduction in overstock? So
Yeah, totally. So the key benefit for a brand is a reduction in overstock, but alongside that comes with an increase in full price sell-through.
Yeah.
So you're looking at an EBITDA increase of 6 to 8%, and for this particular brand was 60 million, which is crazy. And
Yeah.
so I think we need to kind of stop thinking of any of these solutions just in terms of sustainability, but also profitability. So we've internally built a generator now, which we share with CFOs, where we say, okay, look, you need to sit down and rethink what percentage of your product is being bought on short lead time and why you're doing that. And ultimately, it is about collaborative capacity planning with factories. What is the baseline you're able to cover in terms of hours? And in 5 years, do you have an agreement in place where these manufacturers will stick by? Because what's stopping VESHIN factory today from releasing their own line of products? I'm sure they have all the skill in the world to do that, from design to bill of materials to working with the materials.
Joey, Shruti's offering
the most frustrating thing in
Yeah,
being a
they can do everything.
Shruti's offering a 6 to 8% increase in profitability. Can you offer the same thing through your manufacturing? No. Tell us a bit more about your manufacturing setup and how VESHIN Factory works, and why should brands work with you, given they'll have their existing manufacturing partners? Why should they come and speak to you?
So 5 years ago in China, I was a designer, and I met two people in China who made luxury handbags. They told me they wanted to pivot and convert their leather goods operation into a solely alternative leather operation. Super long story short, I became the owner of the factory with them to transition their factory from leather into alternatives, specializing in transparency and sustainability. What happened in the first 2 years was I came back to the UK prior to moving to China, and I got stuck in the UK with the pandemic. Quickly, we learned that the company was really strong in its values. We're based on 5 core values: sustainability, transparency, giving back, specializing in next-gen materials, and consciousness, meditation, well-being is our most important value. With those values in place, we were seeing a lot of popularity for our business model. However, in China, there was this natural complications when it came to proximity to brands, the carbon footprint, politics, and all these types of things. And there's nothing worse than hearing, hey, we want to work with you, but we can't do it in China. So with that said, I wanted to have opportunities outside of China. So personally, I chose to move to Costa Rica, and in Costa Rica, I tried to take investment and build a factory. Costa Rica wasn't the right place to do that. It's too slow. Great place for a vacation, but not for manufacturing. Quickly, I learned that the best route to scaling overseas was finding independent partners, pre-existing factories that we could work with our values together. So with that, I moved to Colombia, Medellin, Bogota. I found a partner in Bogota, and then I moved further south to Brazil, where I live today. In Brazil, we have a footwear factory. With those 3 factories in place, plus an Italian social enterprise, at the start of this year, we restructured the company to be an official manufacturing group, bringing in 2 ateliers in London and in Germany, and now Los Angeles. And as a result of that now, and the group, we're in a position where we give greater flexibility to brands, lower MOQs, higher MOQs. With the next-gen materials that we're working with, we can localize the supply chain, and we work with materials in Mexico, the US, England, Copenhagen. With our factories positioned all over the world now, we can localize those supply chains, do smaller volumes, incubate brands to be able to adopt these materials quicker, faster, without having inventory. And then eventually, this isn't working. Still working? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's all right.
And then eventually, with scale, they can go into our bigger partners in Colombia and China. So for brands working with us, they get greater flexibility in it being able to scale next-gen materials. If it's not next-gen, just being able to work with a manufacturer that's closer to home and accommodate all their needs. And as we grow, we're bringing in partners in India, Mexico, and hopefully in Portugal. And in the years to come, hopefully it'll be ever easier for brands to adopt next-gen materials, but just use VESHIN for manufacturing and support their needs.
And they're unlikely to get that kind of innovation or flexibility from current partners, effectively, is it?
Right now, the reason why VESHIN's at this show is that we're dedicated to scaling next-gen materials. So We have years of history within our manufacturing group in leather. And when it comes to working with these materials, it's very complicated to scale and work with next gen. Because we've dedicated to it, we know exactly how to make it work. Whereas the traditional supply chain, especially leather goods factories, they see these materials and they try to do a plug and play, and it doesn't necessarily work. So for brands, it's harder for them to work with these materials. Working with us, we know exactly how to make these materials work.
Okay, great. Marte, sorry, finally to you. Tell us a bit more about the VORN Fashion Hub and what you do there, and critically, I guess, why, given its challenging times, why should brands invest any of their time or money to come and work with you, as opposed to investing in their own in-house innovation or new product development?
Yeah, very good question. So we're commissioned by the German government and the Senate of Berlin. And like other creative industries, the fashion industry, especially in Berlin, is very fragmented. There are like 1,000 independent fashion brands. There are a couple of 100 impact startups. There are big corporates like Zalando has their headquarters there, and so on. So our work hypothesis basically is solutions are there. So of course, there's lacking infrastructure, intelligence, but mainly it's lacking interoperability, right? So it's a very competitive environment. If you have 15 transparency platforms competing with each other, then it's, the winner takes it all. And through that, a lot of resources, precious lifetime and knowledge is missing because everyone starts from scratch. So we thought, we need a place and an infrastructure and a couple of programs so that those can scale collaboratively. Yeah, because for the transition from linear to circular, there's not one single organization that can organize that. You have a full workflow, a full circular supply chain of differently abled and skilled companies and organizations that need to organize that together. And we felt, and the government felt, that this is missing. So in 2022, we founded a registered cooperative, which is a co-ownership based entity. That's very important. So everyone who is with us has a say and has a vote, independent from the capital invested. And we organize R&D, incubation and acceleration collaboratively. That's probably different from other acceleration models that are pretty competitive.
Okay.
To answer your question, why companies should invest their time is multifold. First, regulation hits hard. We don't need to repeat that. Most of the companies that we are with, they're far, 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 far from being able to become compliant to the upcoming regulations, apart from Stop the Clock, Omnibus, and so on. But it will come, and they need support and they need partners for that. So no matter if it's intrinsic or philanthropic or formal, they have to invest. And so we curate a network of well-selected, trained, facilitated solutions, so that they don't have to do all the groundwork and research themselves. They can actually adopt and start piloting with those different solutions, whether it's transparency platforms, circularity standard, new materials, retail solutions, or whatsoever. So they need to change, and ideally, they have a go-to place where others kind of do some assessment and quality management of and give access to the selected solutions across the value chain.
What kind of innovation, because the innovation space is massive, huge.
Yeah.
I guess what kind of innovations are you seeing which are being successful in terms of you're meeting your goal of providing a platform which enables a lot of brands and scaling. I mean, you mentioned transparency a couple of times. Is that a big area of growth, or like what's working? I guess.
I mean, transparency does not equal sustainability. It's basically the starting point. But we have a couple of those on software and platform startups and scale-ups that address that topic. Something that we find extremely interesting is the actually paradigm shift from changing from design, make, sell to design, sell, make. So we work with a couple of 3D design software companies. We have workstations there. We give training. So you create a 3D design, a 3D rendering, you sell it, and then you get it made on demand. And that is getting even more interesting if you're able to produce where consumption is happening, close to the markets.
Yep.
And ideally with industrial waste or post-consumer waste. So we set up in March a circular pixel-to-product micro factory. There's a lot of bullshit bingo, sorry.
Yeah.
Where brands can actually 3D design, manufacture in real time within 24 hours. We have a couple of flatbed knitting machines or industrial manufacturing machinery there, and unraveling, regaining the yarn and re-netting. So it's a kind of on 200 square meters, so rather small space, a closed loop manufacturing and recycling unit.
Yeah, cool.
So on demand, but circular. That's
Sounds
what
like
we
you should
find
be working with Joey and Shruti to scale it and make it bigger. More
Absolutely,
global.
yeah.
And then bring Lauren in to transfer it to the UK.
Yeah, we get it sorted.
Yeah, okay, great. Look, a lot of the things which you've all just talked about have obvious like environmental benefits, but they've all largely developed at a time which has also seen some huge political shifts and upheavals, Brexit and the Trump tariffs being two big ones, which I know have been talked about today. I guess for each of you, or for any of you who want to comment, Joey, you're allowed off it if you don't want to speak. How does what you do or what you're offering help in terms of business resilience in what is a very tough time for businesses generally? Like, how is it providing that?
I don't mind starting. For me, the reason why I moved to Costa Rica to begin with was because of Trump's first term. I didn't think he'd have a second term. With Latin America being a big manufacturing hub for the US, our biggest material suppliers at the time were in Mexico and the United States. As a result of putting those years of investment in my life into those countries, and now Brazil, with Trump's second term, it's worked in my advantage because we're seeing a lot more interest now in Colombia and in Brazil. And as a result of that, and the way we're structured now, and now with Brexit, having a UK partner, it really complements and gives us the flexibility to navigate what's happening with politics and governments. And if I didn't make those changes and we had our factory in China today, it'd be a very difficult position for us, being solely dependent on Chinese manufacturing and how difficult that is. So thankfully for me, my risk in rolling the dice in Colombia and Brazil has paid off. And moving forward over the next few years, especially now having a presence in Los Angeles, we can accommodate made in the USA, made in the UK, nearshoring to Colombia, to Europe, and then eventually if brands do want to continue to work further from home, we have those opportunities in China and India. So for us, it's worked in our advantage, as negative as Trump can be.
And Lauren, you talked about nearshoring later. So how have the political shifts impacted what you're doing, and what have you done in response to that that's helped industry, I guess?
Well, I think from a US tariffs perspective, it's too early to say how that's impacting sort of the manufacturing landscape in the UK. Obviously, many of our brands that represent our network are going to be highly impacted because it's a major sort of selling market. But I guess where we've seen most of the sort of challenges and also opportunities with Brexit, that has had impact on skills, on UK-EU relationships, on policy development. The UK all of a sudden is not part of any of the conversations around EU legislation, and the industry is sort of lost in that sense. But I think that's also meant an opportunity, and well, not an opportunity, but as a response, brands have really started to look for bringing production closer to home, at least part of their manufacturing, and they're really seeing the necessity of exploring these new models, like not new, but these models of on-demand, agility, speed, transparency, which I think there's a huge opportunity for at the moment, and we see that in real life with the current brands and retailers in the UK. And an example is the project that we did with MANNY AI, that came from a willingness to wanting to reshore a big part of the production. So
is there anything you want to add to that, Shruti? Has it been a driver for you, the kind of uncertainty?
I think resilience, in terms of business resilience, there's obviously the supply chain challenges and there's climate change, right? And so when businesses are thinking about, brands are thinking about resilience, I think there's multiple aspects to it. So single origin sourcing is definitely out of question, which is where, manufacturers like Joey's company, who are multi-location, be it TAL, be it Mars, they are at a unique advantage because they can offer stages. They can offer onshore, nearshore, offshore. And ultimately, this is what brands need. Both in terms of political, social, and climate change resilience, you need to have multi-tier, because pricing will work out from the Far East. But not missing that wave of a trend or reacting to or not losing that faith with a customer because you don't have that thing in stock, that's what these multi-location factory networks can really help and build. That resilience is really important, just having partnerships.
Yep.
With manufacturers, either who are multiple networks or having a supply chain which is diversified. I think the second thing around resilience is not exposing yourself as a business to inventory, because electronics did this a while ago under the leadership of Tim Cook. Apple completely reduce their stock, right? And they said inventory is evil. And so I think another thing which businesses have to move away from in terms of warehousing costs increasing, customer changing, climate change risk is just not placing bets on stock too early. Because that means that you are just going to end up stuck with inventory, which is going to have a tariff charge on it, or which is going to be sitting in a warehouse getting old and then has to be remade. So that's that second piece around resilience, is like really being able to rethink moving away from the cheapest needle. So where can we go? How far can we go to get the cheapest price? To thinking in a strategic way is where would we produce and where are we willing to pay more? In what situation? When can we produce in the UK? When should we produce in UK? And recognizing the constraints which come with each location, because you can't make everything in Brazil and you can't make everything in UK. It's a matter of skill. It's a matter of raw materials and a whole bunch of things. Yeah. So that intelligence needs to come to supply chains.
Marte, I mean, how much is business resilience, or at least dealing with uncertainty, driven the kind of innovators you work with, or the work which they do? Yeah,
It's one of the key drivers, and the painful experience through the pandemic, where whole collections got stuck somewhere. There was actually a shock for many brands and retailers in Europe, and like 10 years ago, there was if you would have pitched manufacturing innovation somewhere in Europe, there was like a no. So the manufacturing sector kind of lagged behind the really needed transformation and systemic transformation for many, many years. So after 50 years of offshoring, there's a, brain drain happened. There's we lost 2 generations of skilled people. Many techniques even have diminished. And so we have an overaged community of manufacturers, but I'm very optimistic because I see that there's a revival, although it's not coming from kind of positive changes, but from huge pressure.
Yeah.
So we see there's a revival of made-in brands, made in the UK, made in Italy. Portugal is becoming really strong. The Baltics, Italy, there's a huge revival. But there's a need and there's a huge demand for nearshoring and reshoring through because of that introspection of certain regions. So I see that I really believe that this could be an opportunity, probably not for the mass market, but surely for well-made, long-lasting, highly sustainable, specialist assortments made in the EU. That's at least what I can tell. But just reshore is not the solution because we don't have the people anymore and we don't have the knowledge anymore.
No.
So if you want to reshore, you have to automate, you have to digitally integrate, you have to become independent from global raw material streams. So this gives a push for post-consumer waste and industrial waste. So this kind of introspection and the political crises in some of the strongest consumer markets could actually be one of the triggers for the sustainable transformation of the industry, maybe.
It's great. A good positive spin on it. So switching gears slightly, we've talked a lot about nearshoring, onshoring. We've talked a lot about technology. Both of those things, one of the challenges or arguments against them has been the impact on jobs. So technology generally removing people's jobs by increasing productivity, or onshoring removing people's jobs in kind of traditional kind of producer countries where, as you said, we've been moving for the last 50 years. Can you, anyone on the panel, just give some examples where that challenge has been dealt with positively, where you've seen good examples of where either companies, brands or initiatives have met that challenge and delivered some positive outcomes? Who wants to go?
Well, I can go first. I think there's that misconception. I mean, we see it a lot because we work with, the innovation side of things, but also the traditional UK high quality manufacturing. But I think we've made 2 points already on this. And one is we are facing a challenge of an aging workforce, and that forces you to find alternatives. I mean, right now, even if we wanted to reshore to the UK, we don't have the skills, and those are being lost, and there's an urgency to implement solutions to overcome that challenge. And then I think the other point that Shruti made in terms of we're never going to be able to produce everything in the and I'm talking UK now because on behalf of UKFT, we're never going to be able to reshore everything to the UK. So I think there is a misconception on that. We're trying to substitute both skills and production elsewhere. I think this is just an opportunity of staying resilient with the capacity that we have in the UK, and finding those alternatives for the industry not to die, basically. And we've seen some great examples. I mean, this comes also from an appetite. I would say, obviously, the manufacturing sector is still lacking that knowledge because of the type of workforce that is there now, but I think there's a huge opportunity for knowledge development and training and an appetite, because we have worked with the likes of really big manufacturers doing visits with, for example, robotic solutions because they need to do something now. So
Yeah, I mean, I really disagree. To Lauren's points, I really disagree with when people say technology replaces jobs. I can't understand this point of view because this is a very, when weaving machines came, they didn't replace jobs. I mean, if we think about this, Chinese, Bangladeshi, Vietnamese factories, they all have better technology in place than UK factories, and they have a lot of jobs. right? So if the correct technology implementation is placed in the UK in terms of there's a different type in India, technology is implemented for knowledge intensive tasks, right? Because it's expensive to have people who are industrial engineers and production managers, and labor intensive tasks are cheaper. So over here, knowledge intensive tasks are expensive, but labor intensive tasks are also expensive, and knowledge is getting lost. Putting in technology for labor intensive tasks, because something costs £15 an hour to make, is not going to lose jobs, because there are no jobs that in at that scale available, because you just can't suddenly start making t-shirts here. So if a robotic machine came today which could produce to a high quality, and such a machine doesn't exist yet, I don't think sobots are at that level, you're not losing jobs. And for it to scale to a level where people in India would start losing jobs of making t-shirts is years of progress.
Yeah, okay.
So I find this fear reduces critical thinking on technology. The questions which people need to ask is this technology useful? Judge the technology. Ask questions of the technology and ask what is the value add from this technology. Stop the fear. The fear is useless.
Marta,
Nobody's losing jobs.
What are you seeing? Have you seen a government response to it in Germany in terms of that transition, or what do you think needs to happen?
Probably not on the German level, but certainly on an EU level. So the European Commission heavily invests in reviving the European manufacturing sector, addressing business resilience. But I absolutely agree with you, Shruti, that technology will A, not save us, and B, not replace jobs. But there's, especially in the manufacturing sector, it's not yet, the potential is not fully adopted. So there's many assisting technologies, let's say. If we look back to nearshoring, then like processes that heavily depend on manual labor can't be nearshored as easily. So people need to become creative and probably change their processes. So what we see is, from cut and sew, you can look into rapid prototyping, into circular knitting, and into seamless technologies with probably similar results, but also you create your product, you build your assortment based on the available infrastructure and available resources, not the other way around, because cheap labor is not available on an unlimited manner. So, and that increases technology adoption. And what I see is that we need to look into other sectors. We need to learn from automotive industry, like the just-in-time production principles. We look into other additive manufacturing sectors because we really need to learn from others, because maybe fashion and textiles manufacturing is a little bit behind. So there's a lot that we can learn, and we need to move fast, I believe.
Great. We've got 5 or 6 minutes left. We've got a couple of questions from the audience. Both of them are on AI. So the first one is, AI can help from manufacturing to sales, but from an energy, environmental, sustainability point of view, do you think it's worth it?
Yeah, it's a great question.
So, Shruti, maybe you can take this first, and then I'm sure others, Lauren and Martin,
I know of at least 2 companies which are pruning AI models. So we ourselves are shifting to a small LLM, which has a quicker response time and it uses less energy. These are really valid concerns, because AI at this point uses 2 to 3% of global energy in a very short period of time, and this is scary. What's interesting about this is I feel for the first time that if technology companies are lobbying for energy increase, You might have noticed news headlines around nuclear plants starting to get rebuilt. So we might actually crack limitless energy because market forces are going to be behind mass creation of gigatons of energy, which is needed to unlock AI. So we never reached peak oil. I don't think we're going to have an energy crisis thanks to AI coming in. So they're slightly counter to the point. However, I do think it's important to reduce the footprint of AI, and there are lots of companies now which prune AI models. So right now, the reason why AI models are so energy intensive is because we are using largely 3 or 4 large language models which are generalized. So whether you're asking a query which is about rewriting an email, or you're asking for technical research, you are shifting between models, but they are using a vast amount of knowledge. Whereas small LLMs, what they do is they say, we are using, like in our case, we are using the model only to retrieve the bill of materials and the detailed operation breakdown. And that's trained on a really small subset of data. And that drastically reduces the energy consumption and is super important. So this is a valid concern. It will be worth it. Just like any other technology, it is at the highest cost, not in terms of monetary cost, which people are seeing because a lot is being absorbed. But yeah, in terms of energy cost, it's massive. Like it's 52 emails, 1 email a week, which you refine using AI, is equal to 5 houses' energy for a whole year. And these are US houses, so it's crazy. But it'll change.
Marta or Lauren, do you have a view on this? Does this come up in the work which you do? Or?
Absolutely, and it's like it's super important that this issue is addressed thoughtfully. There's huge potential in simulating the future environmental social impact of supply chain related decisions, including where actually manufacturing fabrication steps happen, and many, many more. But there's it's not using AI or not. Of course, AI solutions, AI applications have to become less energy using, but one would need to decide what to use certain AI solutions for. So, and then some things are not even thought about. So, is this factory using renewable energy? How can it be optimized? So there's a lot of things that have to be balanced. The challenge is a little bit that data accuracy and formula is missing. But it reminds me a little bit of a conversation of a debate that we had like 5 years ago with blockchain.
Yeah.
Probably you remember blockchain was a thing back then. And then at some point after it was really debated over a couple of months, then Ethereum launched a new version that only used a split of the energy consumption as before. So we have to raise our voice, and we have to demand that.
Totally.
Great. We've got 1 minute left. If it's an open question, but a 2-sentence positive view of what's going to happen in the future in your space and why someone should believe it. So 1 sentence on what's going to happen in your space in the next 2 years and why we should believe that that's going to happen.
I can go.
Anyone want to go?
My personal passion is collaborative relations between brands and factories. Factories make the stuff. They deserve forecasts and collaborative planning. That's what I want the future to be.
I would love to sign up for that, period.
For us, our philosophy is conscious manufacturing. So just living in an industry of more consciousness, more balance, more mindfulness. Right now, from a spiritual perspective, the planet is shaking. It's a bit out of balance, but I think in the next 5 to 10 years, there is an awakening happening on this planet, and especially in fashion. And we are starting to become more conscious and more progressive in our mindset. And I truly believe that is the future for not just the industry, but humanity in general.
I think transformation and disruption, and the industry is still lagging behind, and they're still not adopting innovation at the pace we want them to adopt it, and transforming supply chains, transforming end of use. There really needs to be. I hope there can be that transformation and disruption soon.
Great. Wanted to finish on a positive note. A big thanks to the panel. Thanks to you all for listening.
Thank you.
Well done.
Great.
Thank you.